Hi, and welcome to All the Woo A to Z. We're your hosts, Suzanne.
And Michael, and this is season 2. Hello, I'm Michael, and I have been. Oh, I know. I finally have my car all fixed up. Finally. Yay.
It's been months in the making.
It has. I'm pretty excited about this.
And I'm Suzanne, and I have a new habit of social dance.
That's true. That is true.
And this is All the Woo.
A to Z.
Season 2, Y for
Yes.
and.
And. Okay, so as always, we invite you to our non judgmental table where we share our own experiences and understandings on these topics, and at the very least, hope that you were entertained.
And since this is the final episode in this season,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to potentially be a little bit more wandery
Yes.
and a little bit longer. We're just going to kind of go with the flow.
Yeah.
Right before Mercury goes into shadow and Uranus goes, Neptune goes retrograde and Uranus moves into Gemini.
There's so many things happening.
There's
Yeah.
just a lot of things happening. So, what we're drinking today is a yes and kind of thing.
Yeah, we're doing a specialty cocktail because we just decided we start with bubbles, we end with bubbles, right? But then we also wanted it to be fun. It's kind of like what? Mullet, where it's like business in the front and party in the back. So that's,
I don't know. Do we need to call bubbles business? I don't know. Maybe you're in the right business.
I don't know. So the yes is that we are doing bubbles, and the and is that we're making it a cocktail by adding in a spirit. So making it fun and not repeating ourselves. So we are using a prosecco for our bubbles, which I'm gonna open up
On the air.
on air. Which, by the way, I'm gonna actually give you guys some little helpful hints on opening up these kinds of bottles because I know people get afraid of this. When the little tabby thing that you twist up at the cage of it, it's always 6 spins to the left.
Oh.
Always 6. So until it's undone, I'm going to also tell you, helpful hint, keep the cage on it as you're going to open it because a couple reasons. One, if you take the cage off, it's under it's under a lot of pressure, right? And some bottles are more poppy than others. And so some can just as soon as you take the cage off, the whole thing just goes kablooey.
Yes, I almost took out our friends.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say there's skylight that way, but yeah.
Also, yes, right? Can be dangerous. Either way, you keep your thumb on the top of it as you are doing the little twisty thing. And I just loosen the cage open. But then the cage will act as grippers on the cork itself. Because that's the other thing is that if you take off the cage, then it gets real slippy slidey and people have a hard time gripping that. So that's the other reason why I recommend keeping it on.
And y'all, she's opened thousands of bottles.
Oh, yeah.
Of bubbles.
I love opening up bubbles, actually. I know a lot of times people get afraid of this.
And you can do it with a scimitar too, right? Can't you?
Oh, yeah, I've sabered.
Sabered, yes.
I have sabered bubbles open. Yes.
We're not doing that here.
No. That is not what
Just
we were
using the
doing.
cage.
But I have done that, yeah. I can get creative with this. Okay, so you keep it on, and then what you want to do is you want to hold the bottle at about 45-degree angle. You grip around the cage and the loosened cage on the cork with your thumb kind of on top. And then you kind of grip it, and here's the other key. You twist the bottle, not the
top.
cork.
Ah.
So you don't have to loosen up your grip, and you'll notice that it starts to push against you a little bit. You fight it a little bit, and then you get this nice little solace. I've heard people refer to it as a hamster fart.
I'm just not going to go with that.
You just don't want it to be a pop.
Yes.
At least that would be bad service. Can you hear the bubbles? Yes. And you want to keep it at a 45-degree angle too. That'll keep it from overflowing out of the, super party time. Obviously, if you want it to be crazy F1 experience, that's different, right? But if you want to keep things under control and not lose,
Half the bottle.
right? That's the way to do it. So as we do this anyway, you keep it at the 45-degree angle and it allows the gas to escape. You'll see like this little kind of gassy cloudiness come out of the bottle. That's what you want to have happen. And then, yeah, from there, just it's ready to go. And so our spirit that we are using for this is Creme de Violette specifically that we did a little. So it looks kind of reminds me of the, I don't know, a sweet tart.
I was just gonna say it's a very mystical color. It's a purple, so it's the crown chakra, which I feel is very accurate to what our podcast has been
Yes.
of trying to connect intuition to real life through the mystical, the magical, the metaphysical, whatever the other fourth thing is has an M in it.
Yep. The alls, all the alls. Yeah.
All right, so cheers.
Cheers. Yay.
Yes, and that's a tasty beverage.
That's right. And it's very summery, which you don't have to be listening to this as soon as we release it. So just to let you know, we are basically in summer. No, we are. We are. We officially went through
We're
solstice, right? So,
And we're even more in summer because in order to record this, we have to turn off all the air conditioning.
yes, which will factor into part of this conversation.
Yes, indeedy.
Yes. So, yes, and Suzanne,
It's been a minute.
well, for us,
Yes, I guess that's true.
not for our listeners.
So, gentle listener, there was a gap
Mhm.
between us finishing recording Labyrinth
Yes.
and sitting down to record Yes and.
Mm-hmm.
And in that course of time,
Life happened.
all of the astrology that's been happening on top of my head has sort of been coming to fruition, perhaps,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of turning a corner. So, like I mentioned, I have fallen in love with social dance.
Yes.
I did a transatlantic crossing.
Mm-hmm.
I have re-fallen in love with 1920s clothes.
Yes.
I have come up with an idea for a new series.
Mm-hmm.
I have
Series of.
books.
'Kay.
And that's all I can think of at the moment. And Michael said, "Hold my beer." Not that she drinks beer. And then just doubled down on all of those things.
I mean, I didn't do a transatlantic
No,
trip
but
or any of those things.
MOVING. So,
That's true. So I have made a decision to move where I live outside of just a building. I have decided I am moving to another state. I'm moving to a very woo state. I grew up in a super woo state. Now I'm moving to a different kind of woo based state. So, for those of you who don't know, I grew up in Arizona, the land of Sedona, and all of that, which is a whole other level and type of woo.
aliens.
Yes. And so now I am planning on moving to Louisiana, specifically around the New Orleans area, which is woo for
A whole other level of woo.
correct. Just a different kind of woo. But it'll be the first move that I've ever made where this is someplace that I actually wanted to go live. Yeah. Versus it being purely functional.
Sure.
So I am sifting through all of my things and
She's doing yes and in a big way.
yes. So when you're moving states, necessity really becomes a question as you look at everything saying, do I want to put this in a box and not only pay to have it moved states, but have to deal with it if it's just papers that you haven't addressed in a long time. So even though this move is probably not going to happen for at least a couple months, I am doing that process. So I'm finding things in storage that were old. I'm like, I don't even know. I should go through this and it probably can all just be chucked. But,
Hmm.
you know,
Yes, as we have been doing that with my husband and I for our respective families as much
hmm
as we are allowed. It has been a whole lot of that.
yeah,
Do we need to keep records from the 70s? No, no, we don't.
I don't think so.
That somebody kept records from the 70s is just a testament to,
You
uh,
never know, Suzanne. You never know.
It's true. I might need him if I decide to time travel back to yeah, whatever. But yes, a lot of that, and really been thinking about the nature of things and ownership and what the spiritual slash woo consequences of that are. And we were talking just before the podcast about how, not only is it something that you physically move, but it's something that you have that has an emotional, spiritual, energetic weight.
Mhm.
And so things that are ignored or not used kind of toxify.
Yes.
And eventually that leaks into the people who live in the house.
Mhm.
And so, if you've got a room full of documents that you haven't gone through in 20 years, then they're not serving their purpose anymore.
Yes.
And so they just kind of begin to energetically rot.
Mhm.
And then the rot just sort of takes over the house. I'm doing all this from understanding what has happened in the houses I've been dealing with. So, yes, I think moving every couple of years is probably one of the best remedies for
Yes.
energetics in general, even if it's just, I'm going to get a pod, I'm going to put it in front of my house, I'm going to take everything out of my house, I'm going to clean my house, and I'm going to decide what to put back in
Mhm.
between what do I love and what am I actually using. And then just let the stuff that you're not using go be useful someplace else.
Mhm.
Like, let it have its best life someplace else.
Yeah. I think the other thing that I was looking at is it's been a while since I've moved last, which let me just fill you all in. My life has been always pretty much on the move. In the past, I've never really lived anywhere, even as a child, for longer than 2 months. And I'm talking about just a house versus,
Living longer than 2 months?
sorry, 2 years.
Okay. Oh, it's
Thank you. I don't know why my mom was thinking it. 2 years in any one location, and even as an adult, probably more like a year to 6 months.
Mhm.
And so I've gotten used to being pretty light
Mhm.
because of all that moving. I have to say, there's nothing better to get you to really kind of clean and get rid and purge than moving.
Especially if you don't have a company that's moving you, because I moved every 2 to 3 years growing up, but
Yeah.
we had the military moving us.
Oh,
So, there was
I've never had anybody really pack for me. And even at that, I'm always like, oh, sorry, let me, like, I get more involved than I think.
let me Virgo this for you.
I think so. Well, because they think that everything is precious. They don't want anything to break. So then they overly bubble wrap everything. I only had somebody really help me. When I say help, it was I packed everything else. Now it's like the kitchen and stuff.
Mhm.
And so they're like wrapping my pots and pans and stuff where,
It's metal.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I know that they don't want to get in trouble for breaking my stuff,
I
but
used to have students who would bring their manuscripts to me,
yeah.
and they would be in a bubble wrap envelope.
Why?
And it's like, you realize this is paper, right?
Yeah.
And that if this goes well, somebody's going to read it with a coffee cup on it, and they're going to make notes on the pages,
Mhm.
and they're going to, their dog is going to lay on it. I mean, like,
So,
this is going to be used.
yes.
This is not a bubble wrap situation.
No. Yes. Yes, it gets, and I feel like I end up with more boxes because there's just more that could have been fit in there. So, and plus, I feel bad with all of that that's going on, that I have a tendency to just not have people help me do that part of it. Although I probably should just say, if you guys can figure it out, help me. Anyway, so the fact that I've been living in my current location for, I don't know, about 5 years or
Yeah.
so, it's the longest in my entire life that I've ever lived in one spot.
Same. Only it's been way more than 5 years.
Yeah, and so my home is not that large to hold a lot of things. Suzanne can
Just
attest.
her tarot card collection.
Right. It's not that large. So it's not like I have too much of an excess. I've had to clean things out as I go. Otherwise, my apartment definitely would not hold all of this. So I shouldn't have too much, but there's still a lot. Like
Mm.
I'm going through all my clothes and going through all my art supply kind of things,
Hmm.
what is truly necessary. I am saying goodbye to some things that have been needing to say goodbye to. So yesterday was my first day of going through some of Oscar, my dog, that we talked about in the first season, the love episode, that I've been holding on to some of his things like his doggy bed and his crate and toys and
Wow.
all of that. And so yesterday I let go of the beds because I also figured realistically, I know that you can donate these things, but a dog bed, unless it's in pristine condition,
Mhm.
I don't think, like if he's peed on it
Mhm.
at least one time, I'm going to say probably
Don't
somebody
make
else.
another dog have to live in that.
Correct. Yes. So going through those kinds of things and making sure that they're in a proper state
Mhm.
to be used again
Mhm.
or.
Yeah, I had the 2nd-year anniversary of the passing of my puppy this
Mhm.
week, and we, uh, we spent a few minutes talking about just what a great life we all had together,
Yeah.
and I watched the last little video of her, and it was pretty. I mean, it felt very much like that season closed so that this next season could open, and I've just been kind of in the hallway between seasons,
Mhm.
which I feel like I've said to everyone who would listen,
Yes.
um, for the past 2 years. But yes, it was very clear that the things that we're doing now, we wouldn't have been able to do.
Mhm.
And that's one of the reasons why we made the decisions that we did while she was alive, is just kind of like, this is a limited time. Let's really enjoy this time.
Mhm.
And so I think we're very pleased about how everything turned out. I mean, of course, you want your dog to live forever, but maybe live forever in their height of health.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, those things that have passed.
Before we get too way off topic here for the not that we're off topic, but
Before you have too many things that you need to edit out.
maybe, I don't know. No, just thinking the woo element. And I know that we've talked about yes and in the past, like we brought it up
Hmm.
previously for a lot of things that are in this realm
Mm.
are typically yes and
Hmm.
that it kind of expands your perception of a situation.
Hmm.
It adds another dimension too. It's typically more than just face value. It is probably, instead of there just being two sides to something, like eight sides or 12 sides to something. And how are all of those things, well, not how are, but typically all those things are true
Hmm.
and true within themselves.
Hmm.
And it kind of reminds me in quantum physics where, that they're proving that the perception of something, when the moment that
Hmm.
you look at something, that
Hmm.
it changes.
Observational. Yeah.
Yes, correct. Forget the full term of it, but the process of something being the observer effect. There we go. Where something being observed then changes.
Hmm. It affects that. Yeah.
Correct. And I think that if we were to get on, just briefly kind of talk about the woo of component, if I can speak properly, of yes and, which is kind of why we're talking about all these things now. We're talking about how this has been relevant for us in our 3D lives of
Hmm.
what we've been dealing with. Because I think that for both of us, we're dealing with very tangible, factual, everyday kind of items at the same time dealing with the astrology and our feelings and emotions as we work through these things and kind of seeing ourselves through different lenses through that process, I think makes it multidimensional.
So one of the interesting things about Cancer season, I was listening to one of my Kabbalah teachers the other day, and they were saying that Cancer tends to be the extremes, yes and no,
Hmm.
and that the balance that you need to try to achieve, the central channel, if you will, the middle path, thinking of the tree of life,
Hmm.
that you're trying to achieve is the, in effect, yes and.
Yes.
So that we're talking about this right now at a time when when the extremes in the world seem to be even more polarized.
Mhm.
And that really the path to sanity is to be in the middle and be like, yes, man, this, and to not be so polarized. I mean, so the moon rules Cancer.
Correct.
So
Which is
you have
why I think we've talked about this before. Me during moon Cancer, like a Cancer moon, very emotional, Michael. Yes. Go on.
but that it's the extremes of, the moon is gone and the moon is here, full moon, dark of the moon, but there's all those phases in between.
Mhm.
And while we tend to focus on those two, it's the phases that you spend most of your life in,
Yeah.
actually, as opposed to the 3 days there and the 3 days there. It's all the days in between.
Mhm.
And that's kind of where the yes and can be very helpful instead of feeling like instantly polarized in a situation, but to be kind of like, if I allowed myself to say, just give myself the and
Mhm.
to have that little moment of expansion
Yes.
that you're not going to be hurt, and it's maybe going to, as we have seen in both of our lives, allow a bit more life in.
Yes. Yeah.
And
And we're gonna have too much fun with this.
but I think that that's turn it into a drinking game every time they say yes and okay. But that's the woo part,
Yeah.
is that yes is such an expansion
Mhm.
module that
Yes.
you can program yourself with.
Well, there's also this whole idea for yes in general and the universe and speaking to the universe and the universe speaking back to you is when you're presented with opportunities, a situation, your response, then the universe does listen to that. So
Mhm.
if it is, yes, I want more of, then okay, then it'll give you more of that thing versus. So it's really hard, especially when you're doing manifestation things, when you are. This is why it's important to be specific, but also allow for the how it comes about to be open ended because the universe will probably present you, if you haven't been that specific, with a general thing that you didn't think about, some parts in there that were not a part of your original want.
Mm.
And that then you kind of have to go, Wait, no, no, not like that though." And it'll make you clarify,
Mm. Refine.
correct, what you are looking for. So having that be part of the conversation, because the universe does listen to when you say yes to things and when you say no to things. And oftentimes the no is you're shutting the tap off.
And so I think one of the fascinating things about human design is that for the types, each one has a way that they perceive
Hmm.
a yes in their bodies.
Yes.
And so knowing which one you are may help you refine from there of like, oh, I thought I just got a stomach ache. And it's
Hmm.
like, no, that's my body saying no.
Oh yeah, mine is if I get angry. If I'm feeling frustrated or
Mm-hmm.
irritated, angry, that is the no.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And so, yes, it's a easy thing to look up online to be able to find out kind of which of the manifestor, manifesting generator, generator, reflector, or projector you are,
Mhm.
to be able to know kind of what your yes is. And I think especially for a lot of those types, because they can have so much energy that they unwittingly perceive from other people,
Mhm.
not actually know how they respond.
Yes.
And that really, I think, is a huge key to understanding
Mhm.
what and where to say yes. And for me, I've discovered if it's not a yes, it is a no. It's a de facto no.
Mhm.
Because the yes, the other day I came back from somewhere and we had been talking about loving your environment. And I sat down in my living room and looked at everything and remembered how I felt for every purchase I'd made.
Mhm.
And it had been like, I had to have that. 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 And I think that's one of the reasons why I love that room is because it's full of things that I had such an instinctual, that's mine.
Is this your, what's her name? Mary Kondo
Marie
moment?
Kondo.
Yeah.
Um, maybe in a way, but that anything that does not fall in that category for me
Mm-hmm.
is like, just leave it in the store. So understanding kind of what your personal mechanism is to understand where your yes comes from,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's a emotional yes or a physical yes or a mental yes, depends on what kind of
Yeah.
design you have.
For me, if I get it, for me, it's immediately like, yes, like
Mhm.
I'll feel that. It's either that or the middle ground, which is a lot of things that fall into the middle ground, is more like it's not really for me, so whatever.
Yeah.
So if somebody's asking me to do something, be like, I guess I have time. I can do that. Or
Mhm.
you've seen me. Your
Yeah.
husband also has said the same thing. They're like, you seem to get a little
Yeah. Ambivalent.
more, yeah, to this. I'm like, I really don't care,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
I can't stress it enough how much there is no feeling either way.
Yeah. Like, sure.
So if we're making something work, don't worry about it, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So, gentle listener, just attune to where your yes is.
Yes. That being said, we've been attuning because we're at the end of a season, which is exciting. But as we've kind of stated, there's also some transitioning that's going on with us in our lives. There's transitioning that's going on in the world right now. There's more transition to come in the astrology, which
Astrology is insane. Just ramping up.
yes, we haven't seen nothing yet. It'll be the quintessential hold my beer at this moment in time.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. Given that, Suzanne and I have had some real conversations about where we wanted to take the podcast, and because we want it to be fresh. We don't want to keep doing the same things. We don't want to keep talking about the same subjects that we're always talking about. We want it
And
to be,
all of the topics are so interlaced
yes,
that it's kind of hard to, on a topical basis, talk about one thing without talking about all the things.
yes, but it gives a structure, and
Mhm.
that's what has been really beneficial to make sure that we're kind of touching all corners
Mhm.
of these things, even though we find that we are repeating ourselves a lot when we're talking about these subjects. That being said, we wanted to also honor the possibility of needing to be flexible for what is to come and making sure that we're coming to you with the same excitement and energy every single time.
Mhm.
So we've had some real serious discussions of, are we doing, if we're doing another season, what that season is, it going to be like
I feel like you're
how we're
burying the
doing?
lead, Michael.
Okay, Suzanne, I'll let you explain.
No, so after much conversation, we are stepping back from all the woo A to Z on a weekly basis.
Correct.
And we are opening ourselves up to what the next iteration of this could be.
Hmm.
But between Michael's work schedule,
Moving.
actually moving,
Hmm.
summertime, did we mention the air conditioning? And myriad other details,
Hmm.
it seems like the season for this is concluding, as is.
Correct.
And so we are leaving ourselves open to grow into what the next iteration could be,
Hmm.
but the next iteration is not going to show up next Thursday.
Correct. So I would say stay subscribed so that you're informed of when we bring something out, and we'll do a description of whether or not this is going to be a series of episodes that we're covering a particular topic or whatever it may be. But we wanted to stay nimble in the possibilities of it. We wanted it to be a yes, and also all of these
Do you
things.
see how that all fit together, y'all?
Yes, it's like the universe knew when we were setting up this topic. But also the summer thing, also very real. For those of you who don't know, in order for us to help get such great sound quality, the air conditioning is turned off while we do these episodes. So it gets a little warm in here.
Especially since we usually film at night. So
Correct.
the heat of the day has had a chance to
Settle in.
hover.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, and when we turn the air conditioning off, it seeps through the walls. So,
And right now, I don't know if you can hear it, maybe not, but I can hear it a little bit. There's this cicada that keeps waving in. He's so hot, he can't even keep going. He has to
like,
keep takes deep breaths every single time. Yes.
but I will say that I have loved doing this every episode with you.
Same. Same. We both kind of discussed we couldn't imagine doing a podcast with anybody else
No,
or even just doing it on our own. That
nope.
wouldn't work.
So, we will discover whatever the next step is.
Yes.
But until then, we remain. I'm Suzanne.
And I'm Mychal.
Thanks for listening to All the Woo.
A to C.